Hi, I'm Reagan. I work in the Renewals department at Paramount.
And I'm Ollie, I'm the lead letting consultant here at Paramount.
And we are here to have a quick chat with you today about the changes in rental increases on the renewal side and then also on the remarketing side. Our renewal trends at the moment are showing us that the average rental increase is starting to slow from what we've seen previously. So we started at the beginning of this year with roughly a 7% increase on renewal rents, and that has steadily dropped by roughly 1% a month to around 4%, which is where we've been sat across June and July renewals. What that means is that large increase that owners might have been used to getting either on renewal or on a new tenancy is starting to plateau, and we need to set expectations really about what to expect coming into this summer and then ahead for next year. And I think that's the same on the lettings front as well.
Yeah, definitely. Over the past couple of years, definitely, we've had big increases for our owners when either coming to renewal, like Reagan says, or coming back to the market. So if renewal doesn't go ahead and we look to remarket the property and go from there, we're looking at huge uplifts, or sometimes up to 20%. That has definitely slowed. Well, it's real time really, isn't it? Over the past,
yeah, absolutely.
We're seeing it over the past couple of weeks even, where you'd expect to say, for example, a flat we rented around the £2,000 mark. Last year, you put that back on at say 2250. That has really slowed now, and renewal rents are starting to catch up with the actual market trends. So it's obviously just something to be aware of, that obviously everyone had the big increases over the last couple of years. Doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get that big jump now between the current rent they're getting and the rent that they can expect going forward. Yes, we've definitely had to re-strategize when it comes to marketing, and it's based individually on the property, what we feel we can get in the market rate, and of course what the rent has been in the past as well. Now previously we'd be putting the properties on at a slightly higher rent because the market's very busy, and you would anticipate receiving lots of interest from lots of different people, and you'd get that price or maybe just below, something like that. The marketing has shifted ever so slightly now. To where we have to be really nailed on the price. Again, I use this example because it's a very common one in the market. A flat that you feel, or I feel, may be worth, say, $2,100 a month, you would normally put that on the market at $2,250, and you'd hope to get very close. Now, the correct marketing strategy for a property like that would be to put that on at $2,000. You still can generate the interest from applicants who are looking to move to a really well prepped property. It looks fantastic, and you may get a little bit more that other end. But we want to get it right. You don't want to price it at $2,250 and then the place is sitting on the market for 10 days, 2 weeks. It's far too long. The lettings market moves very quickly, and we still anticipate to have things rented within a week.
Our renewal strategy at the moment is one where we will always advise what the market value of a property is and then a renewal value, because the two don't always sit in line. Previously, we have always recommended, a renewal rent to sit maybe slightly under market value. It takes into consideration the fact that you don't have to pay a brand new letting fee, which is typically higher than a renewal fee. It means that you don't have a void period. There's no works to be done between tenancies. And obviously you have a resident that you know, trust, and hopefully like.
Yeah.
So keeping them in under market, your net position is typically still better. We're in a position now where it's possible that, depending on what the owner is trying to get out of their property, if they are trying to still push for those incremental, increases, and if we're working on a base of 4% based on our typical uplift, the renewal rent might start to overtake the market rent, because a 4% uplift for a resident is probably worth paying versus incur the cost of moving, having to find somewhere else. So we need our owners, I guess, just to understand that if that property were to come back to the market, it's possible that they might be receiving a higher rent on renewal than they would be on the open market. And that hasn't been that way for some time.
Yeah.
I think it always depends what else they're seeing on the market. They will inevitably look around the local area. They'll definitely look at what we have on the market to compare price. But more than price, it's about presentation and about how a property looks, and it can really entice a resident away from somewhere that maybe is a bit tired, hasn't had some work carried out, if it's been there 5-6 years. And Ollie, on his side of the fence, has got you know, a lovely new apartment that they've done all the property prep for, that's going to be really enticing, and it's going to make the decision to move much easier.
100%. I think it shows how important it is to keep on top of your property whilst you have a resident in situ, whether that be through asset management and you have someone doing that for you, but if not, you're doing it yourself. You're making sure you check in and listen. You want to make sure your resident is enjoying the place. I'm not saying you have to knock on the door every 3 months, but you should be checking in. And we've actually found that a lot of residents won't report something that is a little bit annoying about a place, but when it does come to that renewal, they go, oh, well, the owner hasn't done anything to my kitchen and the fridge is a bit leaky or whatever it may be. So it is important to check in, make sure that you're maintaining your asset at the end of the day, because when it does come to renewal, you are against properties that have been fully prepped by us in a lot of instances. And that product, when it comes onto the market, is going to be A1. And it will always rent. As long as the price is obviously right, the product is the most important thing. I personally think the sales market is going to have a little bit of a boost. We've seen that it has picked up over the past couple of months. There are still tons of people looking to buy out there and moving away from that rental sector. Obviously, it's expensive to do so as well. I think we've had the big jump of rents going through the roof. Now, whilst I don't think they're going to come plummeting down anytime soon, I do think, as we've been saying, there's going to be more of a plateau, certainly across it. Now, whilst obviously for an owner, you may feel, hey, rents are going up, my property isn't working the best for me at the moment, I want to pop the rent up. Your capital growth is still going up.
Yeah.
So whilst your rent is maybe going to stay the same over the next year or so, your capital growth is going up, which is obviously fantastic for your net position overall. But I think it's just worth bearing in mind that I don't think we're going to have those.
There is a definite switch, I think, for owners accepting that, you know, yielding out monthly, for example, is potentially less and less likely. You know, mortgage rates, if they've tied in the last few years, and you know, the monthly income they're taking out of it potentially is reducing, but that doesn't mean it's not an asset worth having. That's a question I'm getting a lot at the minute. And as Ollie said, it's about focusing on capital growth. And typically, as one comes down, the other goes up.
Yeah, it's always the way.
Yeah.
And they do chop and change, as is the property market.
My biggest tip for renewals and renewing tenancies at the minute is to consider net position versus just a standalone monthly figure. There's so much more that comes into it in running a property, the fee, what type of resident you have, are you looking at a void period, all of those sorts of things. You need to consider the overall position financially, and also, you know, the stress of having to go through it yourself, the stress of the resident having to move on and find somewhere else. So looking at it bigger picture is often much better in my experience.
I think, again, if you're marketing your property, hopefully with us, preparation is absolutely key. We are slightly different in that when a place comes back to market, we're not throwing it on, we're inspecting it, making sure that everything is perfect, and planning works to make sure that that flat or house, when it does come on the market, goes very, very quickly and attracts the best kind of residents. So yeah, as always, and it has been, and I'll beat this drum going forward forever, is if your product is good, it will go at a very fair market rent.